do we have an emergency? And the answer is absolutely, we do.
No cameras inside at the Cobra's lair, where soldiers lived in their deepest fear. A basement dark, a room locked tight, where Richard lay out of sight. The arms room calls, a deathly cue, a red seal secured, obscured the crime scene's view. Smugglers of Fort Bliss, a leader's shame. No cameras, no guard, where Cobra strikes its claim. Where soldiers die and secrets hide in building 2479, no honor resigns. The cries call out, though the doors lock tight. Who will answer for that final night?
They failed to see, they failed to care, as Richard Halliday laid so bare. A struggle silenced, an attempt to erase leaders' crime. CID sealed the place. The arms room's blood, it paints the floor, where soldiers die so they can traffic more. Taken away in the darkest hour, shipped like cargo, denied the power. The arms room shells, the blade unknown. In confessions, the guilty hearts have grown, smuggled away a soldier's remains. Justice will break these walls of pain. Smugglers of Fort Bliss, a leader's shame. No cameras, no guard, where Cobra strikes its claim. Where soldiers die and secrets hide in building 2479, no honor resides. Building 2479, a renovated hell, where cover-up died and leaders fell. The scales are tipping, time's running out. To those involved, do you feel that doubt? Richard Halliday, let your name be heard.
Cameras caught the seal, look close, truth won't hide. In the shadows of the past, justice will collide. As the scales are tipping, there's nowhere to run. The guilty will face it, the reckoning's begun.
Hi, everybody. This is June 13th, 2026. We are burning the midnight oil today on day 2,141 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room, taken downstairs to that arms room in the basement. You saw it. And that's where they took his life. They stole his body off of Fort Bliss, which is, a huge. But number one, it's in the arms room, and that's why the prime suspect is one of the reasons. Just one. There's tons. reasons why Dallas Wayne Hart, Richard's platoon leader, is the prime suspect. Because you have to have a key, right? You have to be authorized to get into that room. Also, another huge indication is that this is the El Paso cartel infiltration onto Fort Bliss, and specifically in Richard's unit. There's reasons why they infiltrated his unit for years before he ever got there, right? They had a real scheme going on. And so they didn't pick Richard by accident to be in that unit. You see, this is all organized crime. And Richard was picked to be in that unit because he was the distinguished honor graduate. He was number one. You know, of course, that was Fort Sill, but don't forget that when you look at, and you might not know this, but when you look at his command structure, especially like Bradford Bugado, he goes up to Oklahoma, Fort Sill. You know, he has a direct connection with that. This is organized. Who's going to be the general? Who's going to be the lieutenant colonel in the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM? That's not a mistake. That's why this is such a sensitive case, because this implicates our military. This implicates our military at the highest levels. And that they were making deals with the cartel. And I can tell you that they, El Paso cartel, of course, we know that they have infiltrated the justice system there, the DA's office there. We have hard evidence, and then more evidence on top of that, that confirms that they are infiltrated in the DA's office and the AUSA's office, which is the federal prosecutor's office for the Western District of Texas. We know this, right? Because of the evidence confirms it. And of course, the magistrate court, and of course, in the El Paso ISD schools, because of the tunnels that run under the schools, and there's more tunnels. And we know that there are more tunnels. And I personally know there are tunnels because I was born on White Sands Missile Range, and I went to kindergarten. I went to elementary school. I went to middle school in El Paso. I lived on Fort Bliss. My dad was ADA, and he told me about the tunnels. So he said there were a grid of tunnels under Fort Bliss and under El Paso, and tunnels that went over to Juarez. That this was a well-known fact, and even in New Mexico. And that is just like the smuggler's dream, to have all these tunnels and to be able to smuggle whatever you want. And if you're a cartel, you want El Paso. You want El Paso and you want Juarez, because you can really exploit the whole situation and exploit both countries. And so having border protection and having law enforcement there, is so important. But the problem is it gets infiltrated, right? It gets taken over because the money is so big. The money is so much, billions and billions, if not over, since Jeffrey Epstein was involved in it in 1991, 1993. Beto O'Rourke's father-in-law and Jeffrey Epstein at about the same period of time bought their ranches right beside each other in New Mexico. And one thing people have to know about Jeffrey Epstein is that he was a financier for the Iran Contra. He was the money laundering for Iran Contra for the weapons for drugs, right? And all the drug money that was made on that. And that was, of course, an institutional scandal. Um, and so that didn't go away. People think, okay, the scandal came out and it went away. No, they fine-tuned it, um and they turbo forced it, right? And so he moved there. He moved there after the scandal to really set up shop. And the way that you silence people is either you take their life or you blackmail them, you compromise them. And that's where all of the child sexual um, trafficking has come in uh, really big because of this drug money that was so much, and they were making so much, and um, they were money laundering it, and they wanted to keep it going, but they had to keep people silent, especially the military, and so they would compromise them. And through these 6 years, we have learned through hard evidence that they were compromising our soldiers by bringing young girls in, underage girls in, and probably more. And they were even living in the barracks, being pimped out, and they were videotaping it. And so, if anybody wanted to be a whistleblower, you know, they had something on them, right? They put the class six right beside the class six is where you go and buy alcohol beverages. They put that right beside the barracks. They allowed drunkenness, continued drunkenness all the time. Uh, and of course, they brought in with the girls, they were mules, meaning they carried drugs with them. And so they videotaped everything, they airdropped it uh, to let everyone know that they had those videos. We heard from the very beginning that there were also even some rapes going on in the barracks that were video, like an initiation. They had a lot of initiation. We heard so many stories about different kinds of initiations for new soldiers coming in. It was absolutely, and I don't know what it's like now, but it was absolutely um, a, a it was an operation to compromise our soldiers, not only to weaken our soldiers, but to compromise them. And that's why when we finally got there, um, we saw shaking. And I've been reporting on that for years. Um, this was not a military that was badass. I'm sorry, but you think, oh, the military, they're going to be strong and ready to go and be deployed. And I mean, that's what I've seen in being a spouse for many years. My husband, I think he had 12 years. So yeah, he had 12 years, not quite 12 years when we got married. And he stayed in for 30 years, and of course my dad was ADA for 23 years. So being a daughter and being a wife, my whole life has been spent around military. One thing that really, really stood out when we got to El Paso is the fear, the absolute shaking, even of Shaky Jake. Remember, I called him Shaky Jake, the command sergeant major. He was so afraid and he wanted to tell us something and he was shaking, and I don't forgive him at all because he never did. He never found the courage to tell us, and he had all kinds of opportunities to find some kind of way to let us know what was going on very early on because he knew that Richard was dead, and he had told Richard's godmother that he didn't realize that he was talking to Richard's godmother, but he said he didn't even realize that there was a missing soldier, and she really called him out because she had spent her career too, uh, uh, at the highest levels of the military, and so she knew that he was lying through his teeth, and um, and she called him out for it. So rightfully so. So these are real. I'm just saying it was a lot of cowardice, shaking, and so that only can happen if you know that the threat against you is a cartel, is a cartel. And this cartel, the El Paso cartel, when I say the El Paso cartel, it includes the El Chapo Sinaloa cartel, okay? It includes the CJNG cartel, the La Linea cartel, and the Juarez cartel because they had made alliances with them. The backlash against El Mayo from the Sinaloa cartel is because he didn't really want to make an alliance with them. He was there. He didn't want. Well, from our sources, he didn't want the meth or the fentanyl trade, or the children, right? The child trafficking, the human trafficking. Um, you know, his organized crime was really bad, but it was a little, he didn't cross certain lines. It was a little bit more. I don't want to say respectable. He just didn't cross certain lines, and so the plot against him to uh, entrap him and kidnap him, put him on a El Paso cartel plane, an El Paso cartel plane, and then fly him to El Paso, and hand him over to the El Paso FBI office without extradition orders, not even following the law at all. It was so illegal, and of course that just is another piece of evidence that the El Paso FBI field office is also compromised. So Jared Brown, who is the SAC there right now, the special agent in charge, he's absolutely compromised. And he has working for him Patrick Crucius's brother-in-law, right? Michael Mayella is still working in there to this day. So they're very compromised. And I know they have a Facebook page, um, and they pat themselves on the back right now. And it would be really a great thing for us to go over there and ask, where's Richard Halliday, right? Why isn't Leilani Hart arrested? Why isn't Leilani Hart arrested? Because the evidence is so stacked against her. They have no excuse not to arrest her. She should absolutely be arrested. If you don't know who she is, she's the mother of Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Wayne Hart. And of course, in the CID on Fort Bliss was their cousin, Tavita Nusa. He lost his privileges. They were revoked. His badge was revoked. And we know that we have witness that he confessed. to taking his part in taking Richard's life. So, the evidence is clearly all there. I have to be very careful how I speak on a live stream. That's why we don't monetize at all, because when you monetize, you get pushed out there more, right? Because they make money off of your videos. But the thing is then they can control what you say more. So we've decided not to monetize and get the truth out there. Even though the lawsuits definitely are going to cost money, right? They're going to cost money, but oh well, oh well. Inch by inch, and one day at a time. And they're epic. They are so epic. Um, so today we have huge breaking news, and I'm going to share that with you. And I just want to say, God bless him. And it's the Sentinel. Um, they Sentinela, Sentinela. I hope I say it right. I just want to say God bless you and keep you courageous and true, because what they've done is just absolutely wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Um, they're a Mexican media outlet on Facebook that has um, uh, cross paths with our Facebook page, and they are absolutely turning all of the information that we've been praying that people would take and share and share and share, and he is sharing it. He is sharing it. Um, and it's really amazing, these reels that he's made. And I just want to say God bless him for that, because and look at it's a Mexican media outlet that is breaking the ice. The world is just a beautiful place. Let me tell you. It's a God bless him, boy. I just very emotional today because of his courage and the people and the message that he's putting out with it is so accurate. Um which is really difficult because this case has so many tentacles, right? It has so many tentacles, and so it's not the easiest thing to understand. So, what he has done is just such a huge help, such a huge help to our countries, to our people, of course, to Richard, to our family. Um, I'm very emotional. Sorry. I'm not allowed to get emotional, but when you get this kind of help, it's just such a wonderful feeling. And I just want to say thank you so much with a grateful heart. Let's look at it because it's just amazing. So, Centinela, and what that means is a sentinel, right? It's like an angel, right? A sentinel angel coming. And a sentinel is someone that observes, that keeps watch, that wants to get the evidence out there of truth. And what he's done is just exactly that, exactly that. So it's very, you can compare it to an angel, right? So here is his, let's see if I can do this right. Is this big? Oh, small. Okay. Yeah. So here it is. This one, and I haven't posted all of them yet because he's just moving so fast. This one, of course, is about Maru Campos and the um, the treasonous treaty, and he's calling it the treasonous treaty. And the treasonous treaty is so important. It was facilitated by El Paso cartel operative and double agent Alejandro de la Vega Foster. And in all the writings that we put out there, um, it doesn't even touch on why she is so key to all of this because of her family history, her mother's history, the hospital connection, her sports connection, her convenience store. Of course, she owns a lot of convenience stores. Um, and her uh, her family was the pre-party, the PRI. I don't know if I'm saying it right, which are in alliance with the Pan Party, which is Maru Campos. And so she, of course, has the means to have big dinners and get-togethers and fundraisers um, and her husband, she's married to Paul Foster. Paul Foster, absolutely El Paso cartel. He had uh, refining. Western refining got caught buying stolen Pemex oil from the cartels. He quietly paid out, I think, 42 to 45 million to Pemex. It was probably a bargain. Okay. Um, now, that is important because that we know that there's stolen Pemex oil. We also know that Delta Battery 143 handled the fuel on for that unit for the 143, right? Delta Battery. So that's important to know why they would even pick Delta Battery to infiltrate, why that battery was so important. And once you put it all together, it all makes sense. It's a business plan, right? It's a very criminal business plan. But Arellano Caron, Rafael Arellano Caron, the owner of Plenitude, one of the owners of Plenitude Crematorium, the whole purchase, funeral fraud, flesh peddling, cross border, disgust. Um, he was a contractor for Juarez, a registered contractor, but he also has Argo um, oil and gas. Okay, so they're in the oil and gas energy business along with other businesses and everything. But these are all people that, sorry, I need to get me a Kleenex. That definitely have the means because they have big businesses, and they have the means because they don't go along with licenses and permits. That's for the law-abiding people. They don't, because they have people like Mauro Campos's mother that don't care if they have a permit. She can be, they could be leaking all their fluids from their funeral homes down the drain, polluting the public water sources. She wasn't checking on them. She didn't care if their permits were expired, if they didn't have permits, if they didn't have a license, if they didn't have inspections, because they were part of this privileged, and I don't like to say privilege because they're going to hell, right? But this El Paso cartel, right? This El Paso cartel that is an alliance with the Juarez cartel and La Linea and the El Chapo Sinaloa cartel. So, yeah, so he's getting it all right. This treaty between Governor Abbott and Mauro Campos it really shows you the level that they're operating. They're operating with Texas at the highest levels. You know, Texas, oh my gosh, worldwide is such a huge economy, and uh, it could be its own country. And so they're, really operating with loads of money and at the highest levels of compromising even the governor of Texas and the Secretary of State. Don't forget, Jane Nelson's totally compromised. I think she just left. I don't know, but she's totally compromised. We know that because of all of our back and forths about Bill Hicks, about James Montoya, and so she hosted Maru Campos for the furtherance, because after the treasonous treaty, there was even more meetings and fine tuning of all of this agreements for border surveillance, border sharing, intelligence sharing, cooperation between the cartel, the organized crime, um, and what was it for? Was it bribery money, quid pro quo? Um, and another reason why we know this is very high level is because Alejandro de la Vega Foster with Paul Foster and Woody Hunt. Woody Hunt has the contracts for housing, just most of all of them, inside our military. And, they work together with Rick Francis and very high level. And so we know that they brought in um, Marine General John Kelly into Maru Campos's administration. He was working as a security advisor for Maru Campos in Chihuahua, Mexico, for Mexico, okay, for the cartel, right? He's absolutely compromised, knowingly. He got his, of course, he was uh, high level in the government in the United States. None of this is legal for him to go over to Maru Campos's administration. And the reason why I'm bringing this up again is because it shows you the level that we're dealing with here. When you have a 4-star general, decorated, really well respected, you think, John Kelly, Marine General John Kelly, I mean, he's supposed to be the patriot of the patriots, right? He's supposed to be the Marines general. And he's absolutely treasonous. Okay, he's absolutely treasonous. So, and we know that um, what they did, what they organized with the Walmart mass shooting, absolutely organized, absolutely um, staged, uh, and bloody, very bloody. But because we're dealing at such high levels and for contracts, because John Kelly was getting his business, his side business, I guess, um, was getting contracts for the um, unaccompanied minor camps. So of course, like the emergency intake center with 10,000 beds, you have to, when you're putting that together, you have to contract all of that, um, all the needs for it and everything else for it. And huge contracts come out of these uh, 10,000 bed facility, right? Um, and all the people that are needed to work there. His business was getting those contracts. Um, So I don't know if that was why he went to go work for Maru Campos when she's clearly the El Chapo fentanyl governor. But it just tells you the level of treason, the level of compromise, the disregard for the border, for the sovereignty of Mexico, for the sovereignty of the United States. They have no regard for it. It's totally disregarded for them. It's um, all about this business plan, I guess, all about this big bucks, these big bucks. Um, yeah, uh, that's and they sold out um, any kind of legacy, uh, because and people might laugh at that, but for us and our family, that is like the most important thing because our the chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever, right? The chief end of man. That's in oh the catechism, right? One of the catechisms. Um, and so how do you do that? You have to keep your name. I mean, the first thing that happens when you're baptized is, oh, what is this child's name? Who's their name, right? And you keep your name honorable, right? That's so important to us as a family. And so when they went on this smear campaign for Richard, um, that was another clue that they were doing a cover up, that they were covering up. So, we weren't about to let what Richard worked really hard. It's hard to be the distinguished honor graduate. It's hard to um, say no um, in an atmosphere of drunkenness and um, all kinds of illegal activities and drugs and all of that, right? And so what he accomplished uh, just to be a whistleblower uh, needs to be recognized. And President Trump did. President Trump came in immediately. He recognized Richard's courage and how he was a hero, and we really, his name is indelible. All of the things that is absolutely true, uh, and set the record straight. Set the record straight. And so, for this Centinela, this Sentinel, uh, to set the record straight is just a breath of fresh air. And we're just very, very grateful for that because they absolutely had the power to do this treasonous treaty. They had the power to steal Richard's body off of Fort Bliss, to silence people. Um, they couldn't silence everybody. Some people were so afraid. I mean, they were so afraid. The DES, you think his position as Director of Emergency Services, um, that he would be courageous, right? Just like the Command Sergeant Major, you think in their position, they're given courage by their title, and they were so afraid. So you knew this was cartel. You knew this was at a very high level. You knew that they had captured and had a grip over the prosecutor's office and they could weaponize it. And the point that needs to be made, if they can weaponize it, then they could organize the Walmart mass shooting. And they did. Okay. And that's what Richard was reporting on. And we believe that's why they took his life, was because of his reporting on the Walmart mass shooting, the military involvement in the Walmart mass shooting. And that's because clearly when you do, just a few minutes, or especially if you go to our information, and just piece together the hard evidence, you will see clearly that it was a orchestrated, bloody Walmart mass shooting that was meant to be weaponized, and it was weaponized against President Trump to derail his campaign for the 2028 reelection. Okay, and this was absolutely part of Beto O'Rourke's scheme because, he took part in it clearly, clearly. Even if he took part early on because he didn't know what was really going on, but later you absolutely knew what was going on, especially with his connections, and he allowed the false narrative to go forward that was weaponized against President Trump to derail and work against President Trump. And I'm not taking either side here because you see Governor Abbott, he's totally compromised, um, and I know he's in this tough race, but the truth has to be out there. Okay, the truth has to be out there, and what he has done is so bad. So, but they absolutely had the power to carry out the Walmart mass shooting. And they paid a lot of people. They paid a lot of people. That's why there was this fraud with the Walmart victims fund, right? That had like people were just sending in money. Their hearts go out to families when they go through something like that. And they were just sending in money. And it was Woody Hunt and it was West Star Bank, which is Woody Hunt. It was El Paso Community Foundation, which is Woody Hunt, and of course Paul Foster, that had control over the distribution of that money, and that money was fraudulently distributed, um, and that was being investigated, and so all of this ties together. Oh, so that's how they paid people off. They had $12 million of what people sent in, you know. Um, and these people, they've been doing it for years. These monsters have been doing this stuff for years, and they have no, they have, they're just demon monsters. And they act like it. So here, this one here is Mama de Maru of Maru Campos. This is about the crematorium because she was the health inspector. Okay, she was over the health inspections, and she allowed it to run. She allowed it to run, and it's so bad, y'all. I mean, filth, rat infested, and we believe that's where our son's remains ended up. It's a horror. It is absolutely a horror. And they were they were flesh peddling. They weren't doing cremations like they should. They were giving false ashes, like, construction debris or whatever, that they would pulverize and give as ashes, to grieving families. These are people that act monstrous because they're monsters. So, yeah. So this picture really shows them accurately. It might be hard to see, but it does portray them accurately. Here is La Diabla and the CJNG, and La Diabla's family was hired by Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke was living right beside his family home is right beside the owner of Plenitude Crematorium, Argo Oil and Gas. Argo Oil and Gas share office space with Bob Moore of El Paso Community Foundation, which is Woody Hunt. So it's, when you see it, you can't unsee it. Okay, you see the grip, you see, and we have coined the name the El Paso cartel because they are organized crime, and they did make a deal with, make an alliance with the cartels, and that's how they've been working. And I mean, that's why you saw Paul Foster buying Pemex with the cartels, because he's in alliance with them. Um, so that, of course, Martha Mendez Aguilar, the La Diabla, um, she and her, sorry, and I probably misspoke earlier, La Diabla, Martha Mendez Aguilar, her family was working for Beto O'Rourke. Sorry, I probably misspoke. It's, almost 1 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, there's all these connections with the funeral homes, including Purchase Funeral Homes, which is the cross-border huge funeral home conglomerate that works on both sides of the border. And they have many different funeral homes that are not named Purchase that are part of their conglomerate. And of course, this was involved in that. Okay, the organ harvesting of Martha Mendez Aguilar, the organ harvesting and the baby harvesting, the black market of selling them, the disposal of the targeted mothers. Um, it's just horrendous. It's monstrous, and it's also fair to mention that Alejandro de la Vega's Foster's mother was like the president of Planned Parenthood. So they are, that just, I think that's fair to mention when you're talking about Martha Mendez and the taking of these babies. Um, so, of course, they put together the Walmart. Here's the Walmart massacre. They put together this website. It's just amazing right now. Put together this. Uh, it's all this treasonous treaty, right? Because the treasonous treaty is the alliance between all of them. They did, and it's like they have their own State Department, right? They're creating their own country, their own State Department, their own border policies, extorting from the people. That's why this is so treasonous. Um, and of course, they put Richard's face front and center. And now this CIA, DEA, FBI, when I shared it, it must have pinged something because it didn't get too much response. And you see here, it's having a hard time getting responses. It's very important because it's about the being on the payroll of Maru Campos, that she, in this whole border policy, this platform, this surveillance platform and grid that they have created at the border, that they have paid rogue operatives in their Carlos Manuel Salas Fiscalia, right? In the office, they give them office space, they give them a payroll, and in that tower building that's 20 stories, the 18th floor is meant for the DPS, the CIA, the FBI, the DEA, supposed to be on a payroll. Okay, this would be, this what? What? So they're taking over our intelligence agencies, right? It's like they're confiscating them or something for their own selves. And that's when people go, how can that be? Well, because the only thing that we can figure out, that we think is very likely, is because of the Mormon faction. The Mormon faction that are from Chihuahua, Mexico, right? A lot of them are in alliance with Chihuahua, Mexico, because they have a school there, right? They have this high school, or maybe it's more than a high school, that is there in Colonial Juarez, and they have a temple there. They have a temple um, in Juarez also. So they have a huge footprint in Chihuahua, Mexico, and a lot of them have dual citizenship, and they join the FBI, they join the CIA, they join the DEA and the Border Patrol and all of that. But their loyalty doesn't seem the ones, because there's a common denominator, and who's in Richard's case, they don't seem to be loyal to either Mexico or the United States. They seem to be loyal to the El Paso cartel. Okay. Um, and, and I'm really thinking a lot of Colin Wetton. He's a very good example of that. And there's many, like the FBI agents that were the lead agents on the Walmart case. They're both Mormon faction, and of course they absolutely have demonstrated they have no loyalty to either country, and they were in the Fiscalia. They were in the Fiscalia, and of course John Black and Richard Johnston were all in the Fiscalia, and we know that the CIA, they were on the payroll. We know that they were on the payroll, that they were carrying M4 rifles inside the Fiscalia, inside Mexico, which is so illegal, and that yeah, office space payroll, and they were carrying the weapons, and they were conducting these rogue operations, and two of them were killed. There were four CIA agents. I haven't released the other two CIA agent names yet, but there were four CIA agents on this rogue mission, and two of them were killed in the ambush, the fiery ambush. So yeah, so this is, things are breaking. They're really breaking, and it's the word is going to get out, and with all the new news from the connections with the DA's office and the federal prosecutor's office, the AUSA for the Western District of Texas, having connections with Nadal Baim, big family connections with Nadal Baim, really just shows you the protection that this Iran-Contra like pipeline never went away. It leads right to the Strait of Hormuz, which connects the whole Iran situation with Richard's case, and there's more. There's so much more, and I could just speak for hours and hours and hours about all of the different connections that prove what confirms what we're saying is true, that there is an El Paso cartel, that they are an alliance, that they have no respect for the sovereignty of the United States or the sovereignty of Mexico. Matter of fact, I think that they were trying to do a coup of Washington D.C. and a coup of Mexico City, because of the Walmart mass shooting, and I don't think it was for a party at all. They play both parties. They play any religion. They can. They are chameleons. They absolutely will say that they are Christian, or that they are Jewish, or that they are Muslim, or whatever you want them to be. They are not loyal to anything except for the El Paso cartel, and extortion of money, fraudsters, any which way. If it's with organ harvesting, if it's with babies on the black market, if it's with child sex trafficking, or any kind of illicit drug trafficking, if it's stealing from our military bases, if it's kidnapping, because in Mexico, the Mexico side is that so many women went missing. There were so many women that went missing. They have a big woman kidnapping problem there, and that this, I don't think that there's any coincidences here, and all of the migrant fraud that they were, um, with the unidentified migrants, and who knows how many were killed, how many gave organs, how many, it's just how many were trafficked for sex. Very, very vulnerable population that they take advantage of. Now we're learning that, like even the homeless, they take advantage of them to get votes from them. It's like this. I'm wondering if the El Paso cartel is in Los Angeles, right? Um, I'm thinking that they because they do have connections there. They do have connections. So, and in New York too. I will tell you, there's a lot of connections with New York. So I think that they were really trying to, just take over, just take over. Um, and yeah, so this is really good news that this is being exposed. And please share all of this information, and please go to Centinela and follow what he's doing. He's not that big, and so any push for this information to get out in Spanish is a huge blessing. It is in Spanish. And then please follow our page, the Find Richard Halliday page, to push all of what we are sharing out there too, because the more people that hear, the more that it gets out there. That's how you get justice, y'all, because we're a government of the people, by the people, for the people. This is how you get justice. It's not through our compromise courts or our Congress or whatever. It's through the people. And that's why we've worked very hard to earn the respect of the people so that they would share um, the information that we have, and so that we could repatriate our sons' remains and hold those that did this accountable. Because the way they were infiltrated, oh, they could do so much harm to so many people, y'all. So much harm, and they have. So this absolutely has to go addressed. We have to address this, and we have to get accountability. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night. Thank you, Anicia, for coming on, and Danielle. Sorry it's so late again. Trying to get on earlier, but a lot's happening behind the scenes. And I just want to say thank you for your support and your love and your prayers, and share every chance you get. Thank you so much.